the terrific twos. Active movement, making the connection between movement and learning to develop the whole child. 2-year-olds are busy and active. They need space in which to learn new skills and let off steam.
People who have 2-year-olds have to understand that the house has to become a gymnasium. We used to have the quarter-acre section, didn't we, and the big tree to hang on and climb on and do all that kind of stuff. Those things aren't available to a lot of children, so therefore your home environment has to become the gymnasium. Sure, you have to have boundaries, but expect that it's not always going to be, like a Home and Garden magazine. It's going to be...
We know about that.
It's going to be a busy place, and that's so important that we do that.
At this age, it's important for children to hang.
The reason they love to hang is because they're developing their upper body strength. In order to develop our fine motor skills, which are our little motor skills, we first need to develop our gross motor skills. So one of the best ways to do that is to hang on bars or climb and swing in the trees.
Hey, a monkey!
Another thing to remember when he's hanging on things is to make sure that he puts the thumb underneath, because that's called what we call the cortical position, and that's a natural position for the thumb to be in when we start to hold and grip pencils. So you're actually preparing the thumb for writing when he's hanging onto those things. Often in gym classes they ask you to teach children to put their thumbs over the top like that, and that's so they don't break their thumbs when they go round and round and round. But when you're hanging, which is probably quite wise to do, the thumb underneath is really important because that teaches the thumb the position that it needs to be.
Apart from hanging, another way of developing upper body strength is for your child to pull themselves along on a skateboard.
Alright, and with your hands, pull yourself along. There you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. Up, up, crash.
Of course. What you can also do is put a bit of rope across here so he can pull himself along, and that's using his upper body strength as well. So he can go forwards and backwards, and then he can lie on his back on the skateboard, pull himself along like that as well.
Like our children playing with the gloop, activities such as finger painting, Play-Doh, baking and playing in the sandpit all encourage the development of fine motor skills. Children need to experience gooey, messy play on a daily basis.
Lean on it, that's it. Squash it down. What shape is that?
It's a hat.
Is it a yummy hat?
What we normally find is that it's little girls who get into this kind of stuff and who have the well-developed fine motor skills when they come to school. The little girls, yeah. It's also the little girls who do all the swinging on the bars and the handstands and the forward rolls and the upper body strength stuff.
So we need to get our boys doing these kinds of activities. Hanging and messy play are important things to encourage our children to experience.
Those two areas are foundation skills. You can't build a house without good foundations. And I can't teach a child as a teacher to write unless I've got those foundation skills in place.
I had a question about the fine motor control, because one thing he likes to do as well is we've got a PlayStation, which of course he catches me playing, and he'll have a go with the controllers. I was wondering if you had any opinion about that sort of thing, button pushing and...
Children between the ages of 2 and 17 are now, that's a 15-year age span, are now spending on average 3 years out of 15 in front of screens, which is a huge part of their life. If children spend a lot of time in front of screens, what we find is when they get into school situations where they have to track across the page, their eyes, because they haven't developed eye fitness, which is so important, we forget that eyes need to have exercise, their eyes are quite jerky. They can't flick back to the next line because they lose their place. We need children to develop this. We do not need children to develop this. And that's what we call ocular lock, which is locking onto something and not being able to do this.
Playing with hand puppets can exercise the eyes, as can bubbles, balloons and ball play.
He's going around in circles.
Ready, go! Rim shot.
Whee! I can chuck it.
Yeah, we know you can chuck it. Hey, you got it in.
Here's another example of what happens if I sit in front of screens a whole lot. All the information is coming to them through screens, even in books with lots of pictures. it's also good to read stories without pictures every now and again, and he's just getting to that age where you could say to him, do you think that dog's got fluffy hair, or do you think that dog's got straight hair, and how many spots do you think he's got? And so what you're doing is you're actually stimulating his visualisation, his imagination.
So try and keep the time your child spends in front of a screen, whether it's PlayStation, TV or computer, to a minimum.
What we will stress here is that just don't push your children, just give them all these experiences that way, and that will help develop them holistically, which is what you want to do. You don't want to focus on computer skills or writing or what we perceive as educational learning. You know, they've got 80 years to be intellectuals. Let them be a child.
So what do Ellen and Stu want to do differently now?
Spending more time outside, I think, would be really good. And lots of more crawling around the obstacle course in the living room, and using the skateboard, I think, would be a really good idea too, in a different way.
That's great, because it's important that you understand why you're doing these things and how it's going to help his development. It's probably going to give you more encouragement to want to do these kinds of things if you realise there's a reason developmentally that it's going to help him.
Yeah, no, it's good.